Well, the idea is MBAs are for people that want to grow up and be in middle management because it teaches you all the skills to do that, where exponential mindset, belief, and attitude is about leaders that want to change the world. And regardless of the education they had before to qualify for it, it really is about mindset, belief, and attitude. So built this out of something called the 7 Universal Truths that I kind of uncovered through doing all these travel and facilitation, where I saw that exponential leaders have made the biggest impact.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Aaron Baer, author of Exponential Theory and founder of XMBA. How are you doing today, Aaron?
Good, Andrew. Glad to be here with you.
Oh, thank you for spending some time with us here on Business Ninjas. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about XMBA.
Yeah, I've been, basically preparing for the XMBA for 15 years and building this company by doing innovation consulting throughout the world, literally over 100 countries. Been in out of about 500 different companies, facilitating innovation, leadership, and really exponential growth. And through that process, I wrote a book called Exponential Theory that hit Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and Amazon and Barnes & Noble bestseller list. That led to a deeper dive in creating a program called the XMBA, which is exponential mindset, belief, and attitude. So a lot of people confuse it with traditional MBAs, but as a person that has a traditional MBA, I don't think they're probably the future of education. And I wanted to reinvent that by creating this program called the XMBA.
Well, hey, congratulations on your success with the book. Tell us a little bit more about the program with XMBA. I guess most people might assume it means XMBA. Now I'm doing something else, right?
Well, the idea is MBAs are for people that want to grow up and be in middle management because it teaches you all the skills to do that, where exponential mindset, belief, and attitude is about leaders that want to change the world. And regardless of the education they had before to qualify for it, it really is about mindset, belief, and attitude. So built this out of something called the 7 Universal Truths that I kind of uncovered through doing all these travel and facilitation, where I saw that exponential leaders have made the biggest impact continually did these 7 things over and over again. And I found it by seeing about 1,200 pages of notes that I had collected over those 15 years to write this book. And I started seeing this theme of what different people said when they got up and spoke. And so it came to these 7 universal truths, which are: to think is to create, we are habits, what we resist persists, attitude is everything, the goal is not the end, be in the moment, and then we are all one, meaning we're all connected through energy, and leveraging that energy will help us grow. So part of it is the shift towards a growth mindset, which I consider when you stack these 7 things on top of each other, they create the exponential mindset. And that's where we really focus the XMBA, is helping people stack these so that they accelerate their own thinking about who they are, and then everyone around them actually gets accelerated as well.
I love it. A holistic approach to being an executive. And who are you working with? What sort of companies and size companies are you working with?
From global car manufacturers with 200,000 plus employees down to 2-people startups. And then we even have an open program for individuals that, can grab a seat. We have a scholarship program for people that can't afford it. What we see is that it creates a learning community. So part of our goal is to really democratize the course so people can get the education, but then they want to stay around because they create a community of people that think and believe and support each other in a way to help them grow. And that's really the crux of the XMBA. It is a learning community that whatever your expertise is, part of the thesis of coming out of the XMBA is to help do a project and then have your team, really all of them, support you and help you kind of grow that project. So then all of a sudden you see the things that were just learned, you start implementing them in your life. They become, your thoughts, your habits, your attitude, which what are the obstacles you focused on? Because a lot of people focus on really small obstacles. If someone, and put it this way, if you get road rage on the highway, you're probably not thinking big. It's really to understand that you're not going to control everything, and not everything's going to, whatever happens to you, it's not what happens to you, it's, how you respond. So part of that is to continue to grow that mindset, so that you're not really letting the things that bothered you before. And, I think it's just part of the thing is what I've seen for the people that have gone through the course, which about 10,000 people have been into the course. You really see this growth of their first themselves, then their families, then their communities, then their companies, and on and on and on. And we have some people now in DC and politicians they're using this mindset to their advantage, and you can see it. We have this kind of secret language when you see another XMBA, which is pretty cool.
Hey, you're speaking my language. Control is an illusion, right? It's a human concept. The only thing you can control is how you respond to things around you. You can't control another person's behavior. You can't control the stock market. You can't control the weather. You can only control your response. And if you're empowering people at the top of corporate food chains to have that sort of energy that trickles all the way down, that's fabulous. That's helping a lot of people thrive.
And that's our goal, Andrew, is to create 1 million exponential leaders. So we're pretty focused on that. We're off the starting line, and we're growing at an exponential rate. But in my book, Exponential Theory, I really talk about this deceptive stage, and we're in that deceptive stage of consciousness. That Exponential Theory, the book, was written on the idea is as you think bigger, you become more conscious, because all of a sudden you start thinking about more than just yourself. And also the problems that used to bother you, you like think about intentionally, like we're all going to always have problems. It's just what problems are we going to focus on, and are they worthy of our time? And if we think about really big problems, all of a sudden our whole life gets surrounded by people that are thinking big as well. And that's kind of that. In Exponential Theory, I really uncovered that, and I think that's been the viralness of that book as well as the course, is this idea that you can plug into a system of other people that want to think bigger about themselves and really grow with that. And that's something magical has happened, because I don't fully recognize how far I've come in such a short amount of time. So
excellent. I love it. And how are you delivering the course? How do people take in this information?
So we have workshops within companies. So we work with a lot of boards and senior leadership teams. We do a lot of sales conferences, offsites, innovation challenges. I work with a global company called Kin + Carta that's a B Corp that thinks about people and planet and everything they do. And we'll go and talk about sustainability with CTOs across the country. So a variety of different ways this method, this thought process is being put out there. And then we're really going to talk to those groups about how they could think bigger. And that's what's really needed today. With the complexity of the world, it's to help people think a little bit bigger about themselves, because we all can be trapped in the minutia of being overwhelmed because there's just so much coming at us. When we start thinking bigger, then we don't get caught in that minutia. We really can start to see above the clouds and really start to grow ourselves and stand out. And that's where, when I know from this own thought process, is when I walk in a room from using the 7 universal truths, I have a completely different experience. It's very intentional. And I would say that some of our founding members that have kind of taken this on are now experiencing that. Like, wow, it's the illusion of control, yet it's also the idea that you attract what you're putting the energy out in there. I always say is how you see the world is how the world sees you. And part of these universal truths is I just noticed it with all these exponential leaders, whether they had a social movement or a company or were a CEO of a global company. They all had this that somewhat attracted them into the position that they had. It's not to say that all areas of their life they're exponential. That's for certain. There's an unbalance somewhere, but that's what the XMBA is, to have a group of people to help you kind of think of a more holistic approach to your life, so that health is just as important as wealth, and making an impact is just important as adding significance to your family. And I think all those balances really help people to think bigger about themselves.
That's excellent. Really, I applaud your foresight. When did you launch XMBA?
So XMBA officially launched about 2 years ago, but we've been delivering the program for some time before under the auspices of exponential theory. So the book itself covers a lot of these ideas. We've just now found some particularly good ways. We've iterated on it, lean, iterative, and agile in our growth of how we deliver that. And it's only going to continue to get better as we add people and, really add functionality of AI into it, as well as, how do we connect to the world, where everything's a tool. And, I always think is you don't manage people, you manage outcomes. So when you start thinking about that, it's about the who, not the how, because the how takes too long to learn today when there's other people that are experts in different things. And when and where, it doesn't matter anymore, just because we can do anything, anywhere, at any time. And then really it's the why, not the what. I mean, a lot of people focus on what, but when you get to the why and you just step out of the way of people, you see their innate leadership gets, if they understand where they're going or what the goal is, then what they do, really is up to them to get there. And people are amazing, resilient human beings. And that's kind of part of the program. Is one of our goals is to make people that are anti-fragile. And, you can be fragile, which we all know fragile people that are emotionally, very volatile, which emotions are good. You can be vulnerable, which is a step in the right direction. Then we always say you can be resilient, but our whole goal is to be anti-fragile. No matter what happens that's out of your control, is that you're going to be able to respond and kind of grow from it. It's an obstacle that you can learn from and really grow. And that's where we have this idea about really win or learn. The only time you fail is when you fail to learn. And our whole goal is to accelerate that learning. So more failure, and I think any successful person would tell you, is they've failed more than they've succeeded. That failure helped them kind of shape who they are. And we learn a lot more from failure than we do from winning. So it's learn or win all the way.
The timing of you bringing this to market is incredible, because if you launched this around 2 years ago, the whole world was looking in the mirror and looking under a microscope at their own existence and jobs and pathways. And, am I happy? Am I doing something I care about? This giant resignation/reset in COVID, and to empower people at that level at that time is, very timely. Tell me how you've been able to grow this business in the last couple of years.
Well, I think it's to your point. We're in a mental health crisis, however you want to look at it, because in no time in history, if you really think about, we'll take Abraham Lincoln or some past figure in history, we're probably exposed more information in a few weeks' time than they were in their whole life. And we're not able to absorb that. And that's really also accelerated so many other parts of our mental capacity. And the most amazing thing in the universe still is our brain and how we control it and think about it. And that's where I've taken a real deep dive into neuroscience, and I own part of a company that does PTSD, and we do chemical and electrical rebalancing of the brain. And so I've learned a fair bit about neuroscience. And then I realized to rewire the brain, rewire your thoughts, it comes from this. So during COVID, obviously it shook everybody up. And, I think at one time nearly half the people were in a mental health crisis. I don't think we've come out of that because the complexity of the world is too much for us to absorb as we grow so fast. So we need these models. And that's why the XMBA has really kind of grown. Is one, people are asking for help now for the first time in, hundreds of years, really, that therapy, I need to talk about these things that I've never talked about. And our program is kind of a peer-to-peer therapy where, ideally we have these models around truths, like they're undeniable, like to think is to create. Whatever you put your energy into, if you say I can't do something, well, it almost is a certainty. If you say I can do something, over time, it's almost a certainty. And so working peer-to-peer and through mentors and buddies and really through cohorts, we've really created this community to help that. And that's what we're doing, is pairing those communities into different segments where some of them are industry focused, some of them are job focused, but there's also just people that want to grow themselves that come into the program. We're there to kind of help support that. So it's an alternative to, honestly, some really expensive options. And my option on the other end of that is this program that I'm part of called Vitania that really does this, sophisticated way of rebalancing the brain through through chemical and electrical. That both ends of that, and in between that, there's lots of different ways to kind of address whatever crisis you're having, but all of it is about self-expression. And if we're very self-expressive, we generally don't have where the world shrinks on us. And I always think of consciousness as, when you're thinking really small and you feel very alone, you feel disconnected from the world, that's when you have options that your brain starts playing tricks on you to say, and that's where suicide has been such an issue that I want the XMBA to address, just because if we get big thinkers out there, they're going to start really recognizing people that are shrinking their consciousness, which then all of a sudden becomes a trap where you feel like you have no options. If we always have options, we're not necessarily are going to ever have a mental or suicide problem with people. So it's making sure that the people around us, have enough options and can think through that. And that's where really what's interesting is my book is a business book, we're on business ninjas here, but it really comes down to your own mindset, belief, and attitude of what you're going to do in the world to impact the world. And I think every day that we get up, the thoughts you have, the habits you have, the attitude that you have towards it, what are you focused on? What are your goals that you're actually got to think bigger than, how do you keep expanding those goals? And then honestly, just being in the moment and then understanding that everyone around us is really connected to our energy and that we can impact them in a positive way. Well, now just if we think bigger and we think about that, that's what I tend to do when I walk into a boardroom or a senior leadership team, which may not go through this whole curriculum, but it's kind of part of what I deliver no matter what. Whether I'm talking to you today, I just went through the whole 7 universal truths again. It's just part of who I am now. And it's also me habitually reprogramming myself to have this belief system that just goes exponential. And that's really where my world has gone since I first put pen to paper to say, I want to be exponential. I want to think like these people. How do I do it? And somewhere on the other end of that process of, spending, I don't know how many hours writing the book and obviously collecting the notes and then creating a curriculum that now has been validated and people are, literally 90+% of the people are getting through the whole curriculum, which is really hard for an online program. If we're in person, it's we get a literally near 100% success rate of people really saying, this gave me some tools that I would have never had. So it's pretty exciting to see it all come together. And like I said, it's me working through this idea of energy is I'm bringing in the right other people that are actually adding value to it, that it's about the collective wisdom of the group versus about my knowledge or my belief system. My belief system's fueling that, but as I add other people into it, it really grows it that much faster.
Hey, I think at the root of all this, businesses are populated by human beings, and we all seem to lose that at times. And in business, in mental health care, I think one of the most important steps that's critical is the acknowledgement of the possibility of change, right? For a person who thinks there are no options, the possibility of change is a huge moment. And if you're sharing those insights with people who are running large corporations and that sort of energy is trickling down to their employees, that's important stuff, my friend. I appreciate what you do. What role has content played in getting your message out?
Well, I think every company, as much as all we just talked about and why I'm on a podcast with you and why, what you do is so important is, we are all media companies at heart. And even in my book, I talk about that is, there's signal and noise. Most things are noise, but it becomes signal if it becomes, really where you repetitively get it out there. It's also just like creating a habit. Companies that are successful are very fine-tuned towards a massive transformative purpose that's in the future and working towards that. And that's where in my book, I have something called long-term thinking. We call it playing the long game. Is if, Bill Gates has a great quote that I have in the book, is a lot of people underestimate what they can do in 10 years and always overestimate what they can do in 1 year. Yet our whole life is built around 1 year, New Year's resolutions that we often fail at. But what I saw as an exponential leader is they're thinking in 10 years. So me as a thought leader here today, talking to you, I'm setting myself up 5 years from now and me putting content out there, writing another book. I'm a writer for Fast Company magazine. I'm putting out blog posts nearly every day, social media. I have a team. It's a content engine that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because part of that team is people that have gone through the XMBA that believe in it, that then as they practice actually putting that content together, they're actually growing their own exponential impact. So as you can see, is in a growth organization that is built around a culture of growth, personal growth first, then professional, then organizational, then we just keep expanding in the universe. If you take it to that level. Sure. And that's all any company is energy. It's either positive energy or negative energy. And we know which companies, when we look at them by their net promoter score, is which ones give off positive and negative. But in reality, it's really driving back to the fact that if you're doing good for the world, and if everybody that's working for you is, and they can keep getting fulfillment out of growing that, and they have unlimited potential, then that's where I know that I've created something magical that's just going to grow and grow way beyond myself, way beyond 1 million exponential leaders. In fact, I literally told the team this week is someday we will have to change our name from 1 million exponential leaders, which is the corporate name, to 1 billion exponential leaders.
Hey, you are rippling the pool in a lot of directions in a positive way, and that's all any of us can hope to do, right? We're all trying to get to the finish line in a healthy, happy, productive way, and treat the planet and other people with respect. And I appreciate what you're doing. Tell me what's something you'd like to be celebrating personally and professionally 1 year from today. I know we like long-term goals, but that's one of our questions here. We got a 1 year on this question.
Yeah. So, personally, I mean, I think it is about launching my new book, Exponential Mindset, Belief, and Attitude. A lot of what we talked about today, obviously the content's there, with ChatGPT and, great writers around me. I'm building a much better thesis and book than I did in my first one. And it's about that constant growth, learning and growth and improvement. So personally, I think it's that. And then professionally, I see that the XMBA hit some revenue targets that we have, but more than revenue is about impact, because, and that's what I just want to say to some of your listeners that may hear this, we have scholarships. We're really just want to get people in the program and then see their impact as they grow that. And we know that, and candidly, come get a scholarship at XMBA, and we have 100% paid scholarships. And the goal is just to share this message, because once you get into the program and you start learning for yourself, and it's not about self-help. Self-help is saying there's something wrong with you. It's about self-discovery and self-implementation to understand that all the wisdom you ever really needed was inside of you. In fact, knowledge is out there, and everyone has equal access to it. And that's kind of the idea of who, not the how, where you really want to know who you can actually go to, because as you build your team, there's someone that's better at you than everything in your life. And as you bring that back, to professional growth for me, it really is that we start making a dent in this 1 million exponential leaders. And that's why I say a call to action is, if you're not willing to invest in it, or if, you have a hardship or laid off or any of these different things, we want you to go through the XMBA to be surrounded by positive people that want to have growth for you, have your best interest, and really, create exponential leaders, which ultimately, you said this earlier about being human beings. Our deep down and goal is just to create warm, decent human beings. Because if we think about people, planet, purpose, you're really creating warm, decent human beings that solve so many problems. Whether they solve a problem for their own family or on the highway going to work, they no longer get mad. It's making the world a better place by just these little actions. And that's where I know that our program impacts people on a much deeper level than that. So we're willing to kind of put it out there and really put our money where the mouth is, because we really want to see people feel this change. And then eventually, be part of our learning community as they kind of graduate and start making their impact on the world. They're going to want to be around the people that'll help them the most. And our whole goal is to democratize that. We're not driving prices up, we're driving prices down, because we want to create 1 million exponential leaders.
I applaud your positive energy. I truly do. And I wish you and your company all the best, because it's good for anybody that touches it. I can see that. Please tell our listeners, what is your URL where they can find XMBA, and what social media channels you're using these days?
Yeah, so you can find xmba.io. So, our goal is you come in and you go out a different person. So xmba.io, it's not, it's education that's built for the person coming in and built for the person they want to be going out. And, beyond that, XMBA.io is, Instagram, but you can also find me, Aaron Bear, AARONBARE, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So all those places, our team, our media team, our content team is really growing this message, and it's really exciting to see that kind of just grow and grow and grow. And would love to welcome more people into that and have them grow with us.
Aaron Bear of XMBA, truly a pleasure to have you with us today on Business Ninjas. Thank you for your time. I wish you and yours all the best and all the success in the world.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate having me on.